Okay, welcome everybody to today's Midnight training session. Today, in Midnight 6.3, we'll be looking at our pricing module. In Midnight, there's 3 different levels of pricing that we'll be taking a close look into, and we'll go over how to set them up, how to get our services prepared with both the general pricing, customer level, and contract level pricing. And for greater detail within our services, we'll be taking a closer look at our wizard handlers. And also, we'll be taking a closer look at our volume discount handling. Despite this being a pricing-based training video, we will not actually be going over the specifics of our print estimation system. That calculator and the variants, including the wide format calculators, both simple and standard, are both much more complex compared to what the general pricing session for today will allow. And for simplicity, we'll just be sticking to general services. To start things off, as always, we'll take a look in our global settings admin menu. We'll see quite a few options in here that allow us to determine what we'll need to use to start getting our services to price out the way that we need them to. To start things off, we'll take a look at our service types list. In here, the first things that we'll notice are that these service types are what make up the available options in both of our estimates and orders for the places in which we can store our services at. The code is required to be unique, and the name is what you'll see on both your documentation and on your main entry screens. The sort is the order in which the service types appear in left to right, as well as how they appear from first to last on reports such as work orders, estimates, invoices, and in sales reports. The icon and color correspond to our dynamic job board and relate directly to color-coded icons for scheduling accommodations. If you don't plan on using our DJB's shop floor television view, then the icon and color will not impact anything that you see. The kiosk hide column refers to our job costing system, in which if you have the kiosk hide enabled, then the service type and all of the services within that service type will not appear for time logging. And finally, of course, the active column, like in our other modules before, references whether or not the service type is one that can be selected or not. In order to create a new service type, you can simply fill out your data in the gray row at the bottom. Being sure to at least provide a code and a name. The sort will automatically generate itself based on the next available sequential number. The icon and color can be left blank if needed. And finally, the kiosk hide and active checkboxes can be turned on or off as needed. If you need to edit something that already exists, you can click the edit button here and make your changes to whichever element that you find necessary, such as the service type name, the sort order, whether or not it's active or not, etc. To save your changes, click the save button. And to cancel your changes, click the cancel button here on the right. Finally, we can rearrange these in terms of a search, sort, and filter by changing up our options in the top row to see, for instance, what may be active versus inactive, what codes may exist alphabetically, or revert everything back to its normal sort order by clicking sort. Of note in here, the controls that I just demonstrated, such as the filtering and the new name creation. This process is almost identical to what you'll see across almost all of the administrative menus that we'll be focusing on today and in general. So I won't be going over this in each location, but do be aware that unless I state otherwise, this is the general method of admin menu control. After you have your service types set up, we would suggest next going to the Account GLID menu. In the Accounting GLIDs, you can define the information that gets extracted out of Midnight and into your accounting program of choice, like QuickBooks, Peachtree, or Rockame. You can create your GLIDs in here by adding a new row instance here in the bottom. Being aware that you cannot edit the GLID itself after it has been added. These GLs get extracted after being attached to the service on an order and contribute towards proper mapping in your accounting program upon selection. The GLID that you designate in your standard service menu maps directly to the service for your sales or income accounts with your accounting system. So depending on your accounting system, it might be a name or a number. Notably, you should have information easily accessible within your accounting software that will allow you to determine exactly which method of entry is most effective to get your data onto this list as accurately as possible. Lastly in here, do take note that in order to handle accounts and sub-accounts within QuickBooks and likely other programs that you may use, the colon in which you see in the GLID allows you to differentiate between your account and your sub-account. The accounting item code is very similar to your GLID list. These map to your items list. And in programs such as QuickBooks, this is an optional accounting tool that you can use to further keep track of your accounting info as accurately as possible. This list is modified in a similar way to the account GLID list, noting again that the item code itself cannot be edited after creation. Next up, we have our machines and machine departments. With your machine departments, you can create various groups of machinery for production scheduling. Each machine in the machines list will need to have a department associated with it. This list is used to create schedules, as each department can be staffed differently. As you create your machines in your machine list by providing the instance with a machine code, name, and description, as well as an operations time, you can designate that machine to a department by clicking the blue Add Machines button and selecting by checkbox any available options for that specific department. As you fill out your info in here, either by checking or modifying to uncheck your boxes as necessary, then clicking the Save and Close button will commit them and update your list accordingly so that when you expand your machine department, you can see all of the machines within that department. Do note that the start and stop times imply the designated operations time for the machine department, and the machines within the department can have different operation times, so be sure to set these as accurately as you can. Finally, as you have your machine set up within your machine department, that info will display on your shop floor as well as in your job costing module for selection within your different services as you log time against your work. Next up, after defining our general info for machinery, as well as accounting info and service types, take a look back into our standard services menu itself. In here, you can either create new or modify pre-existing services. In order to create a new service from scratch, you would click the Quick Links Add Standard Service button here. It's bringing you into a blank menu. Alternatively, to create a new service that's based on another one, you can click the service itself and click the copy button in the upper right, creating a duplicate of the service as you see here. You need the option to make changes as you need. What you see here in the service, from top to bottom, the service name represents what you see in terms of the core service identifier for selection and display on both documentation and within the selection screens. The description refers to print estimation data. If your service is not a print estimate service, then you don't need to include this. And the code represents the service code in terms of what your accounting system may need to recognize. The service action determines what happens when you select your service. By default, no action will be selected. You can instead choose to load one of our 3 different print calculators, or load a service wizard, which is a series of choices, which, when selected through their lists, change up pricing and or production data as needed. I'll be going over this momentarily. If you do have the wizard option selected, you can pick which wizard is loaded by defining it within the wizard number dropdown. You also have the service type, which is the department in which it appears under. This cannot be changed after a service has been entered, as if you were to create orders referencing a service within one service type and then change that in the future, that would cause data to list in a pretty ineffective way, and we wouldn't be able to track data back and forth. If you need to move a service from one department to the other, the only way to handle that would be to delete the service itself or deactivate it by unchecking this active checkbox, creating a copy, and then giving that into a new service type here. For reporting purposes, the outside service box can be checked. This allows you to differentiate between in-house produced services or outside services that may involve other vendors in order to create supply for you. The most important part of this is that if you do plan on using this for information purposes, it is just for that and does not change pricing logic or display info on any of the jobs themselves. The template group is used for print estimating, and I'll be going over that in our print estimating video. And the taxable checkbox marks whether or not the service itself is taxable. If a service is taxable, then you can, when on a taxable order or taxable estimate, have taxes calculated based on the jurisdiction or the line item itself. The GLID and item code are part of the accounting information pieces that I mentioned earlier, being loaded from the account GLID and account item code submenus. The itemization code does correspond to an available list of sort of resource group control. This list is customizable within the itemization menu here, as is the unit of measure list within the warehouse unit conversion list here. You simply give a few informational choices and allow you to build reports based on these information pieces for data conversion as needed. Finally, the machine department and machine choices allow you to fill in scheduling information to automate your scheduling process a little bit more. In this case, if you were to pick a machine department, your available machinery would derive themselves from the department. You do not have to pick a machine specifically for one of your services, but having a department selected does allow a list to consolidate itself in the future. And this is useful for situations such as if you're running into a job that needs to be entered and work that needs to be scheduled on a press. And if there's several available, being unable to determine exactly which one will be used up front, you can use at least the department to consolidate your list on your scheduling board, so only the possibilities are available when your scheduling actually occurs. Of course, if you do want to use this on the dynamic job board or on the shop floor monitor or display view, you do need to have one of these or both of these checkboxes checked, so that way you can actually schedule it. If you have the auto schedule checkbox checked, then you'll be given a menu with schedule days listed. And in this case, when schedule days is provided, then you're able to have the scheduled date or expected start date for your task be listed as the order's due date minus this many days. This can be effective if you know that certain work needs to be done at a certain time, as you can set up services such as delivery or folding to occur at a certain time frame before the final product is officially due. This will not be the most accurate, as it won't necessarily provide you with an automated start time. And for larger jobs or jobs that take a longer period of time, you may run into accuracy issues with something that starts early on in the day and may actually take longer than what the day allows. But in general, if you plan on using this from a high viewpoint, then you'll be able to take advantage of the scheduling system's auto placement and have work automatically prepare itself for due. The Show on Orders shipping tab allows you to split portions of this service up when being distributed to multiple locations. And enabling proofing allows you to pick this service as one to attach a proof file against in order to send out a proof with a specific operation name in tow. Finally, the base price, minimum price, and setup fee contribute towards the selling price of the service itself. The base price is effectively the per unit price. The minimum price checks to see if the base price times the quantity is met, and if not, then the minimum price is utilized. And the setup fee is divided by the amount ordered or the quantity set for the line item, and then reverse calculated to add back into the base price. Do note that if you have a wizard set that is designed to modify your base price, the base price will add itself along with any of the wizard modifiers, and then add the reverse calculated base price before taking a look at the minimum price for an override. Finally, in here, the unit cost refers to the actual cost of the line item itself and can also be modified within wizards to more accurately represent the cost to create or produce one of your services. You need to use the base price as a selling price and the cost price to determine your actual cost to you as a user. And finally, in here, the run rate helps determine simply the production speed in a per hour unit of measure. And here we also do have the volume pricing. Cases of volume pricing can be set up so that way, based on a quantity of goods ordered by a certain user or client, the calculated price will be discounted by a certain percentage. The volume price works at a 0 to the provided number value, meaning that, say, if you were to list from 0 to 999 with a 10% discount, and then up to 2,000 with a 15% discount, you'd have from 0 to 999 with this 10%, and then the next increment, or 1,000 to 2,000, would list itself as 15% discount. What this will do is it will take the base price plus any wizard modifiers plus the reverse calculated setup fee, and then apply a volume price to it. If all of that falls below the minimum price, then the minimum price will be utilized instead. Next, in the admin menu here, to go over the wizards. When setting up wizards, you can set up either one or a series of choices. So that way you can most effectively determine what exactly it is that your price will change to based on different attributes or choices. For example, in this male class wizard, which is one of our default choices, we'll have our different options available, all of which can be created by setting up a new row in this table. You can set a run rate, expression, and variance, which modify the production speed. And you can set a price expression, which is a modifier of your mathematical operation choice that tallies in against the cost variance and or price variance to help determine the most accurate cost or price for your line item per piece. Having the variance input box checked allows you to manually plug in the per piece override or the multiplier if you're running a price expression with a multiplier, etc. The sort order determines in which order the choices listed here display. And the successor is the next wizard that may appear in your sequence of choices. If this is set to 0, then the wizard itself will come to a close upon selection of the service wizard choice with the 0 identified against it. The successor number references the wizard number as identified from this number column. Meaning that in the case of one of our wizards that has multiple components, such as this 2-component inserting wizard, some of our choices will say to proceed to the next or number 10 wizard, while others will just have 0 or just end immediately upon selection. Again, this price variance is modified into the run rate. If your insert is, say, 10 cents per envelope in this case, and you were to make your choice the 6x9 envelope wizard series selection, then we would be adding 1 cent per insert, thus bringing our total to 11 cents per. And then our next choice would bring us into the amount of inserts, in which here another layer of math is added. In this case, if I were to pick 2 inserts, I would have another 1 cent added to my total base price, bringing my total from the original 10 cents plus 1, or 12 cents per piece before the quantity is tallied in. You can instead use this price expression as a multiplier. When doing this, it serves effectively with things that require doubling the price or applying a markup. In these cases, if you plan to apply a wizard for markup handling, you want to make sure that your options are set up in such a way that your multiplier looks at a 1 as a times 1 of the base price or calculated base price after with other wizard elements before it. And then if you want to increase the price by, say, 20%, you'd fill in your wizard with a 1.2, and of course the asterisk for the multiplication indicator. Again, the variance input allows you to plug your own value in. However, this does reference the price expression that you have listed here. So do be careful when you have your price expression set up and have the the variance input enabled, as if you think you're entering the actual total cost, you would instead have that multiplied by the quantity rather than just having the cost reverse calculate itself. Again, to make sure that these wizards are utilized correctly, you'll need to make sure that they're set up so that way the proper string of operations adjusts the price accordingly. And that if your service is designed to launch a wizard, you have the service action of launch service wizard picked, and the first choice wizard in which what comes up when you select the service. Finally, within our estimates and orders tab of our global settings, we have a core controller for other methods of pricing to be enabled. In particular, you can have contract pricing enabled through the global settings, and you can modify what services are available and visible on your estimates and orders based on having these checkboxes for only services within contract or only services within customer level pricing can be seen. For an additional helpful piece of information, in the admin menu here, you can see the copy group billing info on order copy function. I'll go over this in a little bit, but in short, you can customize how your invoices consolidate line items together for dispatch on an invoice. That's done via our invoices group billing submenu. And you can choose whether or not that copies forward from job to job or needs to be hand entered in each case. This, of course, would matter to you, most importantly, if you have any concerns with your team, in particular your sales team, making sure that your prices are being confirmed before being provided to customers. Now, within the customer service CRM, you can access your individual customer accounts. Within each customer account, you'll see that there is a pricing tab. In this pricing tab, you can pick and choose different services by selecting them either one at a time or by clicking the Load All Services button to bring in every service from your system into this menu. When you pick your service, you'll see the service's default base price and minimum price are referenced in, and you're given the option to change the base price or per piece rate by plugging in a new value here, or apply a discount of a non-zero percentage. Paying note that this can, in fact, also be a negative discount or a markup. And finally, an additional minimum price can be established, meaning that you can have customized rules for your customer depending on the individual services at hand. Do note that as you make these changes, you cannot easily declutter this list. So if you click Load All Services and you did not mean to, you'll be bringing in possibly hundreds of services into your system that you'll have to get rid of by hand each time, one at a time, to make sure that you consolidate your list back to what it needs to be. If you'd like to apply a discount to everything that you see on the screen, for instance, a quick application of a loyalty discount, plug into this percent discount a value that fits your needs, and then click the Apply Discount to All Services button. This reverts all custom rates to 0 and instead provides the discount for all line items with this value entered. Of course, if you choose to edit it, you can make modifications where you need to. Just remember that you can only have either a rate or a discount for your customers' individual prices. Additionally, from here, there is the contract pricing search. If you enabled contract pricing in your admin menu, then you can access this window. What you'll see in here is a group of contracts that have been created, which include a variety of services with default pricing, quantity-based rates, and setup fees if needed. Additionally, contracts can include logic that checks against a print template. That way, if you were to open up a print calculator instance and fill out some basic template info, using this will allow you to come up with a base value in which you'd like to consider for both the sale price and your total cost. To create a new instance, you'll need to click the Select button here. Pick your service from the available list. If it's a print calculator service, you'll be able to select the print product template. It is, however, not necessary. And as you make your choices, you can modify your rate, minimum price, and setup fee before clicking the Save button as you make your changes to commit that. In order to create a new contract, by going to the Add Contract Pricing button here, you'll be brought into a new menu in which you can pick the customer that your contract is part of, providing a name for the contract, and picking among your services as needed. Now, within an estimate or order, as you create your estimate, you'll notice that at the start there is no way to add a contract before picking a customer account. If you select your customer from the dropdown and they have a contract available for use, then the button Attach Contract Pricing will appear, in which when clicked will give you an available list of all contracts for that customer. You can click the Choose Project button and then click Save and Close to commit that record. And you'll be, well, more or less forever listed for this service, unless you remove the contract, bound to the pricing within the contract itself. If you intend to use contract pricing, you can select it by picking up there, but you do not have to use a contract. Do bear in mind that customer-specific pricing is always active. As you fill out your general information, such as your job name, your expected quantity, and other pieces of general info, as you pick your services, you'll see that the code and description will grab themselves from the admin menu's standard services list. The price will display either your admin level price or your customer specific price or your contract specific price, depending on how you have your logic set up for what can be seen. The action column tells you what will happen when you pick your service, either say launching a wizard or bringing up your print calculator. And the discount and setup fee services take a closer look at the numbers behind the order, such as the volume discount, the customer potential loyalty discount that you may have set within their account for that service, or in the case of the setup fee, just a flat addition. Do be aware that the setup fee simply tells you whether or not it exists. It does not tell you what the setup fee is. If you pick one of your services that does have yes for a setup fee, such as my HP Indigo Wizard here, as you fill out our wizard choices, we'll be able to see a couple of things happen. One, an indication that our current or starting cost and base price from the admin menu are set. And as you fill out these options, we may begin to see our cost or price adjust. Our run rate will adjust as well if we have any factors plugged in. And the wizard ID continues until a successor of 0 is selected. In this case now, we can click the details button for that service. We can see a history of all of the wizard choices that we selected. You can see further details such as the calculated price after all of our wizards have been picked. If a setup fee is involved, then the addition of the setup fee into the per piece cost. And also tax information can be viewed in here. After we've picked our services with different pricing measurements, again, if they are selected already, then we won't be able to change them. In this case, what I mean is if I have the bindery service picked, if I need to change it to a different service, I can pick that other service. If I need to reset the pricing or data for it, I cannot pick the same service twice. I'll have to pick another one and then go back to the original to revert pricing to what might be a current level of pricing. After everything's calculated, a unit price, an extended price is brought out by taking the quantity times unit price. And this combination of unit prices, plus if the services are taxable or not, calculates into what the total tax is that displays on the orders. If you need to modify the wizard choices of a service, when we open it up via the details, we'll see next to the service code icon a small magic wand selector. If you click this, you're brought back into the wizard. You can make other changes as needed, and then you can be, again, satisfied with the choices you've made or otherwise. The base price and setup fee derive themselves from either the sales level on the admin screen, customer, or the contract. The setup fee refers to either the admin menu or the contract. The two discounts that you see here, the service and part discount, reference information from the volume discount handler, and the cost is, of course, the cost to you. As you fill out a series of these choices, they'll prepare to organize themselves on your report, such as your estimates or invoices. And upon selection of a report, that data will calculate through and display itself as best designed by our software. You'll see some of our reports do display the unit price and also the extended price or department subtotals. We do have a variety of documentation available for your usage. In some cases, you may find it more useful to display the itemized cost of all components of a job. In others, you may wish to omit them and simply show the subtotal at the end. Because we have so many reports available for your use, feel free to take a look at whichever ones we have and determine which one's most effective for you. Now do be aware that if you take a service, attach it to a job, update it at the either administrative, customer, or contract level, and then copy that job, what you have listed here within the job that's being copied as the price is what will be carried forth into the newly created instance. So if you have updated your pricing since last time in which a customer placed an order with specific services on it, you may need to simply change and make sure that everything is set up as is or as needed to be. Just make sure that expectations aren't created for someone to try to get something they're not expecting. Within the estimates themselves, you can apply a discount or markup on the department level by applying a value in this selector, clicking the Apply Discount button to apply a discount to every service that you see here on the screen, this being the department only, and then applying it, thereby changing the definition of the cost on the line item itself. Do note that, again, the service and part discounts that are listed here are not part of the department level discounting that we're just creating. This here can also be used as an inverted discount by placing a negative sign in front of it, or here by creating a markup. Removing services is as simple as clicking the X button for the item itself, rearranging them so that way they appear differently in documentation. It's controlled by the priority number, in which you can swap up the numbers, change up where they appear. And lastly, when clicking Save or Save and Close, you commit those changes. Now, within multiple quantity instances of an estimate, you can create multiple quantity breaks. As you create these different choices and click the Update Pricing button, you'll create a price calculated and derived from the line item costs of the pieces that are attached, and also if any volume discounts or different rates are built in, they will accommodate themselves based on the quantity listed here. This will multiply any instances of the original quantity into this new quantity. Bearing in mind that if you have services that do not match this quantity, such as something listed with 200 or 300, then that one would not be updated. This can all be confirmed by clicking the Edit button for that individual quantity instance, in which you can see that the quantity jumps, in this case, have happened to every service, but in other cases may not have. If you're satisfied with what you've done on the estimate level, you can convert it to an order by clicking either the Export for an individual multi-quantity instance, or just the export order for the first line or general case of the job. You'll have a new order number created, and you'll be brought straight into that order where you can begin to make more modifications as necessary. Do bear in mind that you can also go backwards from an order to an estimate by, within the Details tab of the order itself, clicking the Estimate Export button. Exporting an estimate to an order converts the estimate to a status of 1 for tracking of activity. Exporting an order backwards into an estimate does not do any such logic. Additionally, in the order, we do not have the multi-quantity instance available any longer, and we also do not have the department level discounts available. Our system assumes that if you've made it this far into your pricing that you're no longer fudging around with numbers to try to make ends meet for your customer. In this regard, we expect the best behavior of Midnight to work when a job that has few to no modifications from the estimate level being the most accurate. Do bear in mind that because I've already created my job and my estimate exported into this job, I can still take the Attach Contract Pricing button, set up a contract, and now look for my different services. If they have a specific price enabled for themselves, then you'll see that price listed in here. And in the admin menu, you have only display contract pricing or customer pricing services. Then these lists will be much more consolidated based on the amount of services available within a contract for a particular job. One last thing I want to go over is a little bit more detail in the wizard itself. When you select a service with a wizard, you will see the base price, in this case of 1 cent, has been loaded in. If I were to click cancel, then my service is added straight onto the job with the minimum price override that comes from the admin menu itself. Now all of that will calculate into the total tax and the CPM, or cost per thousand, on the job to give you the most accurate summation of numbers possible. And under the versions tab, if you're running a job with multiple versions, the pricing of each line item within a version helps determine the individual version's total services and tax. So that way at a glance you can see more than just one version or one order's data at a time. At this point, I'll go ahead and prepare to wrap up everything for today's training session. There are a few other reports we can look at for more detailed information. You can find these within our reports module under the sales reports or under the other reports. In particular, in here, I would suggest taking a look at your price sheet and price sheet export reports in order to properly prepare your team to extract data out just for review purposes and see a list of all of your line items at a glance. And also under the other reports, our service wizard detail report, which is designed to show you each wizard that's currently in your system, just to make things a little easier for your review. There are also some other reports in here, such as the sales by service code, sales by customer, etc. Those, of course, correspond to active jobs that have been closed for one reason or another, whether they've been ignored and dismissed or closed with a completion date and a payment. Regardless, that does control what you're able to see for data sums, profitability, and whatnot. So if your numbers look a little bit off, definitely take advantage of both the price sheet and the service wizard detail reports to see everything as a whole. And if changes need to be made, you can do it either on the service level, service wizard level, customer level, or contract level as required. With all that said, I will go ahead and close my video and recording and open everything up for Q&A.